parents of Reddit. What is your best "why is my kid so stupid" moment? Me waking into the bathroom to check on my 4-year-old son having a bath. Why are you smashing all with that hammer? I have vivid memories of squeezing my balls trying to figure out why it hurt so much. An inquisitive mind. My son, who was 8 at the time, and an only child, carved his very long name into the toilet seat. Then claimed he didn't do it. Lol. When I learned to write my initials, I promptly carved them into the top of our TV. When my parents found it and asked me about it, I told him I didn't do it, and they asked me who did. Maybe did it. Your 2-month-old brother. My 3-year-old has stopped claiming that her brother made the messes in her room because we never believe her and now declares that it wasn't her. It must have been a ghost. My daughter insists wearing a jacket will make her cold because she only wears it when she is cold. Can't refute that logic. My toddler watched at least an hour of an animated movie populated entirely by talking animals. Suddenly, a giraffe came on screen and said something. My kid stood up, pointed at the TV, and angrily yelled, "What? Giraffes can't talk." Lol, this was funny. He must have a problem with giraffes. I'm amazed at how many times I've had to say, "Don't lick that." I don't have kids, but my nephews were over visiting for Thanksgiving. The youngest was 2. We have pet chinchillas and we showed him that if he offered the chinchillas an apple wood stick, the chinchilla would take it from him and start gnawing on it. Well, obviously, this was great fun, so he started giving the chinchillas dozens of sticks. At some point his grandpa said, "Enough," and teasingly, "For every stick you give them you have to eat one too." Guess who took several nibbles of a stick before anyone could stop him? Honestly, how did anyone expect that to end? When my brother was around 6, he decided he wanted to play Tarzan with a cord hanging in his room, monsieur. However, the cord kept slipping from his hand, so he decided to swing with it around his neck instead. My poor grandmother walked into the room to find her grandchild apparently trying to hang himself. One night, my brother had a dream, monsieur. He was being chased by a bear through the woods. No matter how fast he ran, the bear continued to gain on him, monsieur. At last, he came to a cliff. He had 2 options: throw himself from the cliff onto the rocks below, or be mauled by the bear. He chose the cliff. But wait, just as he was about to jump, he noticed a vine hanging in mid-air, just a few feet away from the cliff. He leapt for it, just barely escaping the jaws of the hungry grizzly. That was when he woke up. I should mention that my brother and I shared a bunk bed, and he had the top bunk. The cliff was the edge of his bed. The vine was the pull chain of our ceiling fan. He had about half of a second to realize what an idiot he was before crashing to the ground, with the broken pull chain in hand. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Hol up. I had this exact dream, but I didn't try to hang myself in real life. When I heard my wife say to my then 3-year-old son, "Please stop sniffing all the cars." We were walking through a parking lot. Our daughter, when asked what she wanted to be when she grows up, answered, "I want to be a strawberry, but if that's too hard I want to be purple." The color purple, the fruit strawberry. She was 5. I told my class when I was 4 that I wanted to be a parrot. It sounded cool to be a colorful bird, yeah, no. Then some kid told me that was impossible. Little jerk. I support your daughter's goals. I know. Pricks. I got her a strawberry costume for Halloween. That'll show them. My older brother carved my name into the side of my mum's car with a rock for whatever reason and tried to blame it on me. I was like 4 years old and couldn't write yet. My mom told me about when she was a kid and one time she scratched her name into the dining room table. She did it absent-mindedly and freaked out when she realized what she did, so she scratched all her brothers' names into the table too. Live together, die together. My son, at age 10, an amp, #X200B. I was trying to figure out why my shower was draining so slowly and wound up pulling the drain strainer out. Inside I found a bunch of brown paper goop. It took me a while to figure out what it was. I went to my son and asked him, "Did you tear up a toilet paper tube into little pieces and cram those pieces down the drain in the shower?" "Yes." "Okay. How about not?" "Sure. How else is he going to get the drain to stop?" When I was a kid, my little brother woke up and thought he saw Frankenstein walking down a hallway in the middle of the night. He took off running in his underwear, out the door, down the block, several blocks really. A couple picked him up maybe 4 blocks away and brought him home. He was on his way to my grandmother's trailer a good half-mile away. Kicker was the Frankenstein he saw was my grandmother who was staying with us that night. Took a while to live that one down. He gets extra points for having a decent plan anyway. My son has microwaved ramen noodles with no water a few times. Just so you know, they are flammable and smoke horribly and turn your microwave an awful yellow color. My 4-year-old son just the other day spilled his water bottle on the floor. I told him to get paper towels to wipe it up. He does. Then I told him to throw the towels in the trash. He wrings them back out onto the floor before he throws them in the trash. And Lieutenant, facepalm and GT. Ha ha ha. If I can be the kid who made my parents ask this question. I walked into a wall when I was 5 because I was walking around looking through binoculars, backwards. Got these 2 massive ring bruises around my eyes. That's hilarious. When my sister was 18 she was planning a trip to California after HS graduation. She spent several days calling banks to get the exchange rate for money because somehow she was absolutely convinced that regular US currency in Pennsylvania was not usable in California. She thought the banks were all lying to her that it was the same money. I am surprised she even found California. So how was her trip? Not good. She couldn't figure out how to get a California visa. When I caught him peeing in the doorway of his room at the age of 5. His reason? "'Cause I don't want the kitty coming into my room, monsieur." Smart, gotta mark your territory. When a sudden rainstorm hit our campsite, my 11-year-old rescued a full water bucket from the rain and put it under the canopy to keep it dry. You can't let that water get hypothermia. I was that kid. My parents took my siblings and I to a greenhouse garden. Everyone was on their best behavior until I got the sudden urge to lick some foamy stuff off of a window. I was always a good kid, never caused any trouble, but for whatever reason I had this compulsion to lick this foamy stuff off the window. Poison control had to be called. My parents were frantic. It was an ordeal. I was anaphylactic to milk at the time too, and I was definitely old enough to know better. What was the foamy stuff, exactly? In a greenhouse and left on window corners, probably industrial-grade pesticides. One time my mom asked me what color my eyes were, so I started looking around trying to see the monsieur. A true visionary. When the axe challenge was a thing, apparently, you spray axe over the front of your shirt, light it on fire, then take the shirt off. I think that's it. Anyway, this genius gets his arm stuck or something as he pulled the shirt off inside out, so, of course, the fire is now burning his face. He gets it off with the help of his friends and gets taken to the hospital with second-degree burns by his friend's mother because he was staying over. That was a fun phone call to get at 3 a.m. Monsieur. Dad, I'm okay but I had an accident and Karen has taken me to the hospital to get treated. I told her it wasn't a big deal but she made me call. My 12-year-old daughter blamed a squirrel when we asked how the borax for her slime projects moved from the garage to the kitchen counter. It's so fulfilling to go from, "I'm pretty sure you're lying," to 100% I know you're lying. When I was 11 we were at a park that had one of those swirly slides that is kind of like a tunnel. Well, I wanted to act like a mountain climber and tie a rope around myself and jump down the slide to climb back up. What was the best spot to tie the rope? I asked myself. The neck. Good location to easily grab the rope and pull myself back up, plus convenient tying spot. My parents ran to me yelling and stopped me mid-knot, tying a rope around my neck to jump down a slide. In retrospect, I'm a dumbass. Edit. Thank you for my first silver kind stranger. You should be grateful to your parents, like really grateful, because of them you can comment about your stupidity. Oh yes, I am very grateful. My whole life has been a super lucky ride, dancing in front of the Grim Reaper. My mother always brings up when she asked my brother to turn on the kettle and he answered, "Shall I make it hot or cold?" And I thought I was stupid. I'd absolutely ask for cold in such case. If he doesn't make it cold, well, that was some fun. If he somehow did, jackpot. As my physics professor repeatedly said, it doesn't happen, but if you've somehow found a way to make it work like that, patent that. On Mother's Day, when I was only small, my dad told me for Mother's Day we would give my mum a lion because she had had a stressful week between jobs. Of course, tiny me had no concept of what a lion was and assumed my dad said it was lion. Me, are we actually getting mom a lion? Dad, yes, your mum really deserved a lion, so we'll give her one this morning. I then proceed to sprint excitedly to my parents' room, climb onto the bed, jump up and down over my poor sleeping mother screaming, wake up, we are getting you a lion, wake up right now. My mother did not get a lion, or a lion for that matter. Ah, that's so wrong and so cute. My youngest, around the age of 3, lost having curtains in his room after the second time he bent the hook that the curtain rod hangs onto because he tried swinging on his curtains. It turns out that the tiny piece of metal that's designed to hold the weight of a curtain rod is not designed to support a child. Several years later we'd moved to a new house, and decided he was certainly old enough to stop swinging on curtains. We made sure to sit down with him to explain that when he was little, he would swing on them, and that it broke the curtain rods. Now that he was around 6 or 7, he was old enough to remember not to climb the curtains. He lost the curtains the next day, after he tried swinging on them this year. Perhaps he thought we were lying to him. Okay, but that could happen to anyone. And 6 or 7, that's still pretty young. When he was 10, he grabbed the wooden towel bar in the bathroom, and fell backwards. And then kept falling, because the small wooden rod was only attached to the rest of the towel bar via a small piece of wood that was glued to the main structure, and, once again, was meant to support the weight of a wet towel or two, not a 10-year-old child. Nia gave himself a concussion on the side of the bathtub that time. Not my kid, but my niece loves crawling around on the floor trying to lick doorstops. When she's not doing that, she actively searches for dust, lint on the floor and tries to devour it before you take it from her. I worked at a daycare for a while. There was a toddler who came in with what looked like rug burns on his forehead and nose. When I asked Mom what happened, she sighed and said, he has to lick the spots of light on the carpet. I just imagined a 3-year-old with vacant eyes saying, it tastes like sunshine. Not my kid, but myself. I shoved a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into a VCR slot when I was like 9. Then I tried to reach inside to fish it out. I was stuck with my hand in the slot up to my wrist until my mom got home from work a couple hours later. I don't know why I did it, but we no longer had a VCR player after that.